very interesting to see how the Tunisian, Egyptian and Libyan revolutions have had different reactions on Venezuelans. The Tunisian one passed by almost unnoticed. The Egyptian one triggered very interesting reactions. The pro-Chavez camp identified themselves with them and said it was like their revolution, the Bolivarian revolution that liberated them from imperialism, and they thought that the Egyptians were doing the same by getting rid of Mubarak, who is an ally of Washington and Israel. While the opposition said, well, we want an Egyptian revolution here against Chavez. That was during the Egyptian revolution. Now, the Libyan one is completely different. Chavez's position when he said on Twitter that Gaddafi was facing a civil war, that was a clear indication that Chavez did not consider what's happening in Libya a revolution. So his supporters immediately were opposed to that, and actually indirectly support Gaddafi, while the opposition says, well, we cannot support somebody like Gaddafi, because if you support somebody like Gaddafi, it means that you are capable of doing the same things, which is what they accuse Chavez of being. They think that Gaddafi and Chavez are very similar. But among the pro-Chavez camp, I can see even a division. Some people, especially Arab Venezuelans, are saying, well, no, we cannot go against, we cannot go against the Libyan revolution. We want these kind of revolutions to happen, and they seem to maybe get closer to the Chavez position as there are more indications appearing on the surface of a possible intervention by the US or by the NATO or by the international community.
Okay, interesting situation there, Dima Khatib. That's all from Dima, all from me in Washington. Back to you in Doha.
Egypt's public prosecutor has issued a travel ban on former President Hosni Mubarak and his family and put a freeze on their financial assets. Ayman Mohideen has more.
Forced out of office and now in the crosshairs of Egypt's prosecutor general. On Monday, former President Hosni Mubarak and his family were banned from traveling abroad, and all of their financial assets and property in Egypt frozen pending further investigation. Mubarak and his family had reportedly accumulated billions of dollars in wealth during their 30 years in power in both domestic and foreign assets. The president's two sons, Ala and Gamal, were widely believed to have exploited their family ties for personal financial gains. Holding Mubarak and his former regime accountable is important if Egypt is to make a break from its past.
I think it's a very positive decision. One of the demands of the revolution, which pushes it forward and reassures the people to a great extent, especially these investigations in corruption.
Shortly after Mubarak left office, Egypt's foreign ministry requested foreign governments and financial institutions to freeze all foreign assets belonging to Mubarak's family. The travel ban and freeze is being imposed nearly 3 weeks after Mubarak stepped down, leaving some to question the prosecutor's intentions.
This is a positive step, but very late. It should have been taken when the prosecutor issued his decision to freeze Mubarak's assets abroad, and even before then, because it has given Mubarak time to smuggle his assets out of the country.
Mubarak is the most senior official of the previous regime, who is now under investigation for illegal activity. Similar travel bans and investigations have been launched into several top officials that served under Mubarak. And on Monday, indictments were filed against former ministers who are now set to go on trial in early March. Holding former regime officials accountable was one of the main demands of Egypt's revolutionary movement, saying the current leadership of the country must cut all ties with the past by sending a strong signal it will prosecute Mubarak's alleged wrongdoings. While many will see this as a positive step in the right direction, others will say it's too little too late, and that the delay in issuing such a freeze will merely have allowed the Mubarak family even more opportunity to hide any ill-gotten gains. Ayman Mohideen, AlJazeera, Cairo.
In Tunisia, 2 ministers have resigned from the caretaker government. It comes just a day after the Prime Minister bowed out following a wave of protests on Friday and Saturday, which left 5 people dead. Nazanin Mosheri has this report from Tunis.
There is a heavy security presence in the capital. For the first time, alongside the police and army, the National Guard. Working together, they say, to maintain order. In the past few days, several people have been killed in clashes here. The escalation of violence, something not seen since Ben Ali fled. The interim Prime Minister Mohamed Ghannouchi has gone, but the protesters remain outside his old office. They say their demonstrations are peaceful, all the trouble caused by armed militia who infiltrated their ranks. Their demands, the resignation of the entire government. How long do you intend to stay here?
For all my life, to save the future of my children and the children of mine. I will stay all my life.
This is the man who wants to bring calm. Badji Kaid Zebsi, an 84-year-old politician. He served under Tunisia's post-independence leader Habib Bourguiba. Mohamed Abu is a lawyer imprisoned during Ben Ali's reign. He says the current administration is facing an impossible task.
It seems people want to accept half solutions. The people got rid of the Ben Ali regime in this revolution, and they don't want to go back to the past. The problem is that people are not used to political matters, which requires compromise.
Tunisia is still a country in turmoil, unable to move on from its past. There's no mood of reconciliation here. It seems the revolution that toppled Ben Ali many weeks ago still isn't over. Nazanin Bashiri, Al Jazeera, Tunis.
Still ahead on the programme, a former British security officer is given a life sentence for murder in Iraq. We'll have a full report after the break.
Information travels in many ways. Knowledge passes in an instant.
If you want to communicate with those shaping the headlines, this is your chance to ask questions directly to the people making the news. Riz Khan, at this time on Al Jazeera.
If you're a Nokia user, you can download Al Jazeera's news widget from Nokia's Ovis store. The news widget, available on compatible Nokia devices, gives users quick and easy access to real-time news updates from Al Jazeera English. See the world in real time. Al Jazeera Mobile.
The times change. The instruments evolve. The battlegrounds shift.
This is America! Our country!
But the international struggle continues.
He was murdered!
Uncompromising, hard-hitting investigations.
I can't get no justice from no one in Jamaica.
People and power, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. Here's a reminder of the top stories on Al Jazeera. International pressure is growing on Muammar Gaddafi to end a crackdown on opponents. It comes as his loyalists take on opposition fighters holding two cities close to the capital, and his warplanes bomb an ammunition depot in the capital, in the east rather. Egypt's top prosecutor has issued a travel ban on former President Hosni Mubarak and his family, pending further investigation. He's also ordered a freeze on their financial assets inside the country. A heavy military presence is back on the streets of the Tunisian capital a day after the Prime Minister bowed out. Two ministers have also now resigned from the caretaker government. It follows a wave of deadly protests. Let's get more on the unrest in Libya. Abdul Fattah Yunus was formerly Libya's interior minister and head of the Libyan Special Forces. He renounced his post last week. Our correspondent Jackie Rowland spoke to him.
The ledger is thick and it's filling up with names. This recruitment office has been open only a matter of days, and already hundreds of men have signed on. The army for which they're enrolling doesn't exist yet, but that isn't deterring the volunteers. These young soldiers joined the uprising against Muammar Gaddafi on the first day. Now they've enlisted in the rebel force and they say they're ready to march on Tripoli.
We don't want money or cars or anything. We want to protect the country and its people.
A lot of young people are sacrificing themselves. They want to go to the West. We have old men and women who will go to the West to liberate it.
So there's no shortage of volunteers, no shortage of patriotism and revolutionary zeal. But as to exactly when, how, and even if they intend to advance on the capital, that's another question.
The anti-Gaddafi forces say their first task is to defend the east of the country, what they call Free Libya. Taking the fight to the capital would be the next step.
We have a force that can protect Benghazi. The force may use heavy trucks to transport tanks to go to Tripoli and pass through Sirte on the way because it still supports the regime. The power we have is enough. The ammunition, supplies and fuel are also enough. We don't have a problem.
But a tour of this airfield paints a less optimistic picture of what the rebels have at their disposal. Rusting Soviet-era fighter planes that haven't left the tarmac in years. All part of Gaddafi's strategy to prevent the army from ever threatening his rule.
The army was dismantled years ago. The regime is concentrating only on security units.
The victory they're celebrating is incomplete as long as Muammar Gaddafi remains in control of cities in the west. And most Libyans fear he will not be defeated without more bloodshed. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera in eastern Libya.
Yemen's opposition has rejected a call to join a unity government. That's despite reports President Ali Abdullah Saleh is prepared to give the opposition ministerial posts. Hashim Ahalbara reports from Sana'a.
Rehearsing for the big day. Anti-government protesters outside Sana'a University. A huge rally is expected Tuesday, and for the first time, the opposition plans to join pro-democracy demonstrators in what they are calling a day of fury. This square just off the university campus has been the epicenter for demonstrations against the government. From there, organizers plan to march through the streets of the capital.
Despite pledges by President Ali Abdullah Saleh to enact democratic reforms, these young people are saying that they have made up their mind, that they have crossed the point of no return, and that they will continue their fight to bring down the government and the political elite in Yemen.
Please, 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 please leave our country before it's coming too late. Please leave our country, leave our country. We don't need anymore. If you love us, please leave us.
But Saleh isn't willing to leave. In this gathering with his ruling party, he made it clear that he won't let the street overthrow what he insists is a democratically elected government. In a thinly veiled warning aimed at stemming the rise of defections among loyalists, he told his party that if he should fall, they would be next.
Ben Ali is gone, but is it calm now in Tunisia? Is it over? They want to get rid of the leadership, the inner circle and all the chain of command. They got rid of the first-tier leadership in Egypt. Now they want to get rid of the rest. I'm telling you, you have to be careful.
But warnings like these have not been enough to keep some of his most staunch supporters from losing faith. 11 members of the ruling party have already joined anti-government forces, along with one of the most senior tribal figures, that his security forces were given strict orders to act in self-defense. Threats are likely to dissuade the demonstrators from massing on this square for what they hope will be a turning point in their fight for democratic changes. Hashim Al-Barra, Al Jazeera, Sana'a.
In the Omani city of Sohar, a supermarket has been set ablaze. On the third day of unrest, anti-government protesters blocked roads to two of the country's main export ports on Monday. A doctor said 6 people had died in Sohar a day earlier during clashes with police, but the health minister says only 1 person had been killed. In Bahrain, protesters have blockaded parliament in an attempt to increase pressure for government reform. Bahrain's Crown Prince Salman said on Monday that efforts were underway to launch talks with the opposition. Pro-reform rallies are continuing in key parts of the capital, Manama, calling for the monarchy to bring greater political freedoms. The Spanish Prime Minister